Good afternoon and welcome to the market recap. I'm filling in for Dan again. My name is John Hoagland. Thanks for trusting us with your time. Unfortunately, Dan is wrapped up again. We're doing a lot of stuff around the office, so he's asked me to cover for him. I hope that's all right. Still Tuesday, August the 3rd. We've seen some interesting opportunities and things happening in the markets as always. As far as news is concerned, very little word from Congress as far as how things are going with the negotiations of the $1 trillion package for infrastructure or the package that's coming down the pipe after that. Haven't seen a lot of information about that. Andrew Cuomo is in the news quite a bit. Lots of talk about how equities seem to be ignoring COVID risks and continuing their push to the upside based on some pretty positive earnings. We do have a bunch of earnings tomorrow. A lot of folks focusing on the GM earnings tomorrow, seeing some chatter in the news about that. And as far as other news, it's really just been about stuff that isn't really market related. I'm not seeing anything great here uh, as far as anything that's gonna help us in our daily quest in finding opportunities to make a little bit of money on these. Again, lots of talk about GM. A lot of predictions on the earnings that are due out Wednesday. A lot of options activity in and around the GM stocks. Um, yeah, everything's about Cuomo, and I don't really, have any market relationship involved with that. So, just still, I guess, waiting for more information from Congress. I haven't seen much of anything with regard to what's going on there. It's been a little bit quiet. It's maybe a little bit unnerving, but our equities certainly have not been disturbed by that. Just kind of glancing over what the markets did, the pre-open regular trading hour break below the weekly kickoff low finally puts in a base, and price comes right back to weekly kickoff low, finding some resistance there, but also being a little bit magnetic back to that area. Maybe that those shorts got a little bit overdone on the way down. We'll see that in the chart shortly. The E-mini S&P's balance remains after a test of the balance of the balance low, last week's low. I'm wondering if anybody noticed that we had a late spike to the downside yesterday. I didn't mention it this morning on the forecast. Didn't think it was necessarily going to be part of what was going on. I mean, we were talking about the S&Ps this morning. I was kind of looking at it as, I'm not sure that there's going to be that much going on in there. And it certainly, as markets do, proved me wrong, but some pretty decent opportunities. Market drove right to a pretty solid reference level, didn't quite get to it. Remember, what doesn't happen is sometimes it is equal as what does happen in these markets. NASDAQ, more of a random walk without any really longer time frame references, just kind of wandering in its area of balance. Gold overnight shorts bring price back to the point of control, just a kind of a comfy, cozy, smaller range kind of day in gold. Not no real big opportunities. The euro tested the 3-day balance low, fails to bring sellers. We're still in that now. Was going to be 4 days of balance in the euro, and the 10-year, largely range bound, but we still put in a higher high and a higher low. So upside structure still remains. I haven't had that much of a chance to see where the 10-year note rate is. It's 1.181%, up slightly off the close from yesterday, but nothing tremendous. As always, I got to say good morning to or good afternoon to everybody. Sorry, I'm so used to the forecast. Jorg, good afternoon. Tanya, it's just me today. Sorry, I know you were looking for Dan. Um, 43.65 was my planned entry, and 43.85. I've had such a hard time going long, though. And I understand why. The market seems to be struggling to continue this move to the upside. It's really just kind of range bound. So the extremes of the range in the S&P is last week's high and last week's low have really found to be good resistance as well as good support, but it's just hard to trust. The thing about those levels, those extremes of the current balance is even if it doesn't work, we don't lose a lot. That's so important in anything that I'm looking at. Vince, how you doing, pal? I know it's sometimes some days are diamonds, some days are not, and we just got to learn a little bit from everything we do, and we move forward. If you had a bad day today, it's just one battle in a long war. We're gonna get you straightened out there, Vince. Jacob, good morning. Good afternoon. I'm still thinking it's morning. Greg H, good afternoon. Hello, Tanya. It's always a pleasure to see you. Brian Frederico. Jerry is awake. I hope by now I'm awake too. Frederico, 2007 and today. Yeah, as far as buying the market, I'm thinking the same thing, but we just have to trade what we see. Norman Walford, a good afternoon to you. Yes, I noted M period spike in my research led me not to be expecting too much on the early short. Didn't get me into the long, though. Well, I'm glad that you noticed it. I didn't bring it up today. We were going to open above it, but these are things we always want to notice. I was wondering if anybody was going to call me out on the fact that I left it out of the forecast this morning. Tanya, I'm glad you saw that, and it did provide a good downside opportunity. The upside was a little tough to take. We had a unfinished downside auction, which is basically last week's low. We didn't get to it. I was looking for the market to exceed that by a little bit, leave a little bit of excess down below last week's low to mark rejection of that level. We never did get that rejection below that unfinished downside auction from last week. So now we got to look at it like, well, why didn't that happen? Why didn't the market do what we expected? Because that's likely to be important, and it certainly was today as the market rotated, took out the high of the initial balance, took out the opening range, took out everything, and basically returned volley all the way back to the other end of the court. Why don't we take a look at these charts and take a look at what we're talking about here? Start with the crude oil. Okay, lots of discussion about the COVID and difficulties in sustaining demand. Well, we were looking early at this market, and it was really kind of in range and in value, kind of holding up above our support levels here. But just before the open, the market ripped through all that and looked to the downside. We didn't get to any major points of control. We didn't really get to anything that looks all that important to me as far as important levels. The market just kind of ran out of sellers down there. Maybe we got a little bit too short. And then price came all the way back up to, guess where? Our weekly kickoff low, which is 70.85. Did it hit it exactly? I think it went a tick or two above it. Let's see. 86. Oh, I was off by a tick. Well, that's all right. So the market breaks out down below, comes back up, tests what is previously support as resistance. It might be important to look at that tomorrow morning as an important level of inflection. The E-mini S&Ps. So here was the late spike that we were talking about. Tanya noticed it. We were looking at it. We opened above it, so it didn't really seem as too important, but we always want to note when we have those late spikes, whether they're to the downside or the upside. The market opens, takes us through the late spike to the downside, puts in the low right near last week's low, which is a week low. Okay, there's two 30-minute bars that trade to exactly the same price. There's no excess down here. And when I'm looking for excess, when we approach this level, I'm looking for price to go down through it and then reject that level and then start to move to the upside. Today it didn't happen. Today we stopped short of it by a few ticks. Where? Low 43.65 quarter. 43.65 quarter was our low today. The low last week was 43.64.75. We stopped short by about 2 ticks. Why did we do that? We don't know. So when we stopped short there, our sellers decided to bail, and we came all the way back up through the repair area from yesterday. Repair would be from high volume node to high volume node of the different distributions of the double distribution trend day yesterday. Took us a while to get up there, but we got there. We surpassed that. No new high coming off as we come into closer to the 315 or what used to be the 315 close. Pretty decent upside move here. The NASDAQ was a little bit more vague for us. I didn't really see anything great here in the NASDAQ because it never really approached an important inflection level other than perhaps this 20 session exponential moving average here. We're still in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. Tomorrow may be the 7th day in range. So far this week, we haven't seen a real good test of last week's high and low. So that's why I'm kind of calling what happened today a bit of a random walk. Didn't really see. We got a little far below this low. We traded to yesterday's low very nicely. Check this point of control. No point of control checks in the neighborhood down below. Just again, a bit of a random walk here today. What I think have been, if we didn't catch the downside move, difficult to trust the move to the upside, as Tanya is talking about. She's having a hard time looking to the long side. Gold. Here's the daily. We're still centrally located. We have, I apologize. Sorry about that. We have an inside day and extended trading hours. No real direction, no real big opportunity here in the 30-minute chart. Just kind of what we were expecting. Opening in range and value, better trade locations usually come after that. Got a decent opportunity here near yesterday's low. The market rotates higher, right back to point of control from yesterday. That comfy candy-like level that the market tends to look to, and then just rotates the rest of the day. No real good opportunities. Euro. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 days of balance. Nothing tremendous happening here. 30-minute. We did open in range and value. We did take a pretty good look to the downside. Yesterday's, or day before yesterday's, I guess that would be Friday's low, finding at least a degree of support, but market really, finding better trade location just after the open, up against yesterday's value area high. Not able to trade to the overnight high, taking out the overnight low on the way down, taking us down to value low from the previous day, and then falling into rotation. I think the 10-year is kind of interesting. Here's the 30-minute chart. We're seeing higher lows, higher highs, and we're seeing rates kind of creeping to the downside. Here we have the same thing happening today, opening in range and in value. We have best trade location of the day happening about an hour and a half after the open. Unable to maintain price above yesterday's high. The market rotates back to where? Point of control, and really becomes magnetic there. So magnetic, as a matter of fact, that the point of control is the same as yesterday's. Very, very little change in the perception of value of the 10-year in the session for us today. Tomorrow's Wednesday. We are looking for EIA petroleum status report. We're about 14 minutes away from the API numbers as far as crude is concerned. But that's really, other than ADP employment report tomorrow, which will be foreshadowing jobless claims on Thursday, which will be foreshadowing the unemployment numbers on Friday. So think about the things that we're looking for. We've got potential headline risk at any moment with the bill, infrastructure bill, trying to get through Congress. We've got the bill that's right behind that apparently they're going to try and jam through at the same time before they adjourn till September. We've got the crude tomorrow, and then kind of important inflation numbers for the next three sessions. So as this week continues to move forward, there's more and more important information coming out, and again, we're still right in the teeth of earnings season. So anything happens, anything can go, and we're going to look forward to some pretty decent opportunities, I believe, for the rest of the week. Hey, Lemur, afternoon. Still using the regular close to note my gaps, but since the exchange changed their close times in the afternoon, I'm wondering if NO and P are going to be more relevant going forward. What I'm looking for, Tanya, is what's the volume? Is the volume going to maintain after the regular close, or is it going to just kind of dry up the way it always has? So far, it looks to me like it's drying up the way it always has, so I'm going to keep my regular trading hours in the S&P is basically 3 o'clock close is where settlement is going to close. I've kind of historically added that last 15 minutes, which is now going to be an extra half hour of information. And I don't see that it's made that much of a difference. So don't worry about it too much. But if it's going to be relevant moving forward, it's going to need to attract volume. Volume. Crazy Hogs volume emporium. That's what we're looking for. Group coaching link, of course. Anthony. That is going to be tomorrow, again, at 1 o'clock. Thanks for reminding me, Anthony. And I look forward to seeing any and all of you here. Make sure you like, share, comment, question, feedback, and heckling are always welcome here on the Market Recap. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. What happened in this day in history? The Nautilus submarine travels under the North Pole in 1958 on this date. I'm sure that they did it in August for a reason. 1996, the Macarena begins its reign atop the U.S. pop charts to Macarena. I remember that, and I'm glad that's gone. 1942, August 3rd, Columbus sets sail. The three ships, the Santa Maria, the Pinta, and the Nina. 1948, the NBA is founded on August 3rd. 1977, the James Bond film The Spy Who Loved Me came out in theaters. Kind of starting one of the funniest franchises of the English spy genre, Austin Powers. Always loved those movies. Yeah, that's about it. And is there anything interesting in music? 1926. Today is Tony Bennett's birthday. Tony is still with us. He was born the same year as my dad, who's no longer with us. But at least we've got Tony to remind us of the year 1926. 1963, the Beach Boys released Surfer Girl, the first song Brian Wilson wrote and produced. Who doesn't love the Beach Boys? So there's a couple other cool things here. Uh, 1969, CCR released their third studio album, Green River. Bad Moon Risin' was one of the hits that came off that album. 1973, Stevie Wonder released his 16th studio album, Intervisions. Livin' for the City and Higher Ground came off of those albums. Fantastic. Fantastic. There was another one here. And it's not. Oh, in 1999, Patsy Cline received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. She died in a plane crash at the age of 30, walking after midnight, and of course, crazy. It's been over a half a century since she passed away, and she finally got her star on the Wall of Fame, on the Walk of Fame. There's another couple of cool things here. I thought I saw. Well, I was never a fan of 80s music. 1985, Tears for Fears. The song Shout hit #1 in the U.S., which I do appreciate 80s music more now than I did then. Yeah, it's going to be about it for information as far as what happened in this day in music. I always love looking this stuff up. I hope you guys enjoy it too. All right. Yeah. Mostly curious about the current gap I see from 7/22, July 22nd, still unfilled in regular trading hours. It's going to be important when it's important, Tanya. All those downside structures that remain in the S&Ps, the Nasdaq, they'll come to roost sometime. Now, I'm not saying the weaknesses that have been left since last March. There's a lot of gaps and naked points of control down there, but I'm sure that at some point the closer ones are much more likely to be revisited. They're unfilled. They have to get filled one way or another. Those downside weaknesses. Don't let it bother you too much, Tanya. Just look for good risk management. I know you are a good risk manager. On that note, I'm going to call this a recap. I'll be back tomorrow morning for the forecast, 8 a.m. Central Time. Same bat time, same bat channel. We'll look for opportunities and context tomorrow morning. Also, we've got the group coaching tomorrow. We've got a whole lot more stuff coming at us in the near future. So I'm looking forward to spending a lot more time with everybody, and we will look forward to that. So get a good night's sleep. Stay good. Stay kind to each other. Say a prayer for world peace. Say a prayer for everybody. And I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. If you're going to trade tonight, keep some powder dry. Opportunities abound perhaps tomorrow. Trade well, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.